Hi, I'm Adam,
This is Kevin.
and we are Tech Guys Who Invest. This is the place for business people and investors to learn all about investing. We offer a fresh perspective on what it's like to have a day job while investing, and we share lessons learned on our investing journey. Our vision is to educate and entertain you while adding tons of value to your daily commute. Welcome to our show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Tech Guys Who Invest podcast, where each week we provide you with tips, tricks, strategies, and ways that you can leverage in your everyday life so that you can invest wisely and safely. And one of the ways that we learn about real estate and about investing and increasing our financial acumen is through books. And Adam and I have read quite a bit of books this year. Some books we've read almost the same books. Other books we are reading different books as well. And that's the beauty of it. And we share information with each other, and we figured we should share this information with all of you because it does pertain to becoming a better investor and increasing your financial education.
Yeah, it's so important to increase your knowledge and to continue to educate yourself. And one of my favorite ways to do that is books. And what Kevin and I will be talking about is some key takeaways we've pulled out of what we've read for 2019. And we'll be looking forward to applying those in 2020. So this is a great sort of look back on what we read for 2019. And it makes us excited for what's coming in 2020 and how we can apply some of those lessons. So
Now, I was going to ask you, why do you like books so much?
that's a good question. I really like the tangible nature of paper books a lot. I enjoy it. There's something kind of calming and relaxing to me about it.
Cathartic about it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just really enjoy that. But nowadays, as busy as I am, I find myself relying a lot more on Audible and listening to books while I'm driving or doing some activity that just kind of takes time.
Yeah, if you're
as a
doing an
way to add
errand.
value. Yep,
Right. That's what I do
definitely.
too.
Commuting, I'll either listen to a podcast or a book, and usually I change them up. And that allows me to get through quite a few books. So I always have a paper book going and an Audible book going. And
Nice.
then for Audible, if I really like the book enough to where I consider it a reference, I'll buy the book. I also use my library a ton. I get things from the library. And then again, if it's one of those that I really feel like I need it for a reference so I can highlight it or mark it up, then I'll just buy one.
Yeah, I like that approach as well.
What was the top book you read in 2019, Kevin, and what are some takeaways from it?
The top book, I would say, as far as investing, the most eye-opening one was Fake, I would say, by Robert Kiyosaki. And to be 100% frank, there are a lot of things in there that feel like he is repeating, almost like he is going on a rant. But once you kind of dig through that, the key points that he repeats through the book, he does talk about a lot of points that people, I think about, but nobody's really saying. And the biggest point is the education system is pretty much failing us from a financial education perspective.
Did you read that in paper form or did you listen to it? How did you take that book?
I read it in paper form. It was recommended to me. I wanted to get it on a Kindle or an ebook, but I couldn't. So I just bought the book as a hard copy and just started reading through it.
I'm listening to it on audiobook right now, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. I found what you found also. He repeats a lot, but I believe that's part of his teaching pattern
Yeah.
because he does an incredible job of breaking down really complicated subjects into very, very easily consumable, simple concepts. And I think he repeats it a lot because they're more complicated than he's making them sound.
Yeah, I agree. And there is something to be said about how we learn as people, and that repetition is quite helpful. This is why some people reread books, and when they hear the message at one point in their life and they hear it at another point in their life, it may do have different impacts on them. But for this book, really the motif, if you will, was to get away from fake assets and fake teachers. So people that are talking about, oh, you need to just save or you need to just invest in Wall Street. What I took out of it is to be more purposeful with your financial education. Don't just be a mindless drone and say, oh, I have a 401k. This is all I need, and just invest in that. So dive into it. If you really want to look at your 401k and think that that's going to be this thing that will generate wealth for you in before you retire, look into it, explore it more, look at the fees associated with it, understand the mutual fund that you are investing in or the target date fund. Start digging holes into it and start understanding what it is that they're doing instead of just saying, all right, this looks good. Because that's what I did. That's what I did when I first, when my first job at Oracle. Oh, there's a company match. This is free money. Let me just throw it in here, not knowing anything about it. Said, oh, this looks good. There's a number here that annualized return. They're projected to do this. I'm going to go with that. But I never looked into it any further than that. When I started to dive into it and learn more, I said, oh, hold on. I don't like how there's not enough control for me, and I don't understand exactly what it is they're investing in.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's one of the reasons we have this podcast, is to help others uncover this and increase their financial intelligence the way we are.
One thing that Kiyosaki also talks about in that book, of course, he mentions real estate as an asset that you should definitely invest in. But he starts talking about gold and how gold is part of the global economy and how the U.S. has moved off of the gold standard. I'm still kind of new to that whole concept and investing in gold. I don't know much about it. I haven't explored that. So if you do invest in gold or know people that do and would be willing to be a guest on the show, we would love to have them on. So just send us an email, techguysinvest@gmail.com.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things in that book that he said was about how the gold is the tears of God, is what that one
right, yeah,
shaman or sensei told him one time. And he said, if you invest in some gold, that amount will return to you in cash flow. So if you invest like $1,000 in $1,000 worth of gold, you will increase your cash flow by $1,000. And thought, man, that's interesting. Might be worth buying an ounce just to see if that happens.
But don't mindlessly do it. Do some research before. That's what the biggest theme I got out of it. Well, for you, Adam, would you say is a book that when you look at 2019, what book had the biggest impact on you, and what did you learn from it?
A book named Late Bloomers by Rich Karlgaard. Mind-blowing book about how most successful people are not the young prodigies that the media sensationalizes. Like these really young, super successful, either internet startup CEOs or even pro athletes or entertainers, singers or actors. You know, the media really sensationalizes those young people who hit it big and they're just hyper successful really early. And what he says is most successful people don't even get started with their passion until they're in their 40s. But our modern culture screams that you're a failure if you don't know what you want to do early in life, and if you haven't made it by the time you're in your 20s or 30s. And then he talks about how the educational system is completely broken and compounds the problem, makes people kind of focus on test scores, SAT scores, college performance, and all of that just increases the problem. And then he said a lot of people, but they kind of get beat down by the time they're in their 40s, and they believe they're failures if they're not extremely successful at a young age. And so they don't try to pursue their passion. They never discover their true creativity and the area where they can be majorly successful. And he says that's a tragedy. And then he uses brain science and modern psychology to explain how the brain develops throughout your life, and the part of your brain that's responsible for you being like an entrepreneurial leader and a creative success doesn't even grow until you're later in life. So if you're in your 40s and you haven't discovered your passion yet, it's not too late at all. And I love this book because I'm a late bloomer. Big time. And I've never read anything that told me that's okay, man. Because you're blooming late doesn't mean you've missed the boat here. There's still time. You're coming into your own right now. And I feel like I am actually right now. this book couldn't have resonated with me anymore. I mean, it blew my mind.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you had a book this year that really made an impact, a huge impact, and kind of it sounds like it fortified your position in doing things like the Tech Guys Who Invest and multifamily investing. And that's what's great about books is you read something and it just feels like the universe is calling you. If you want, at least an experience that I've had when you read a book that's life changing, you're like, holy crap, this is everything that I've been thinking put into this
Yeah.
package.
And it's not just me, someone else feels this or thinks this.
Right.
And I thrive on feedback. So having this as a kind of a affirmation that it's not just me, I'm not alone, and this is a thing that's real was just really awesome for me. I mean, it helped me a lot. So loved that book.
That's
What
awesome,
about
man.
another one for you, Kevin?
There were a couple books that I read pertaining to marketing by Russell Brunson. He is the founder of the ClickFunnels and Funnel Scripts. He has a whole software organization, but the idea of it is to the two books that I read were .com Secrets and Expert Secrets, and it was really eye-opening because it breaks down the psychology of marketing and different techniques you can use to be a better marketer. And when I thought about investing, marketing is huge, right?
So
It's
important.
probably one of the emphasized things that, or the key things that you can do to scale your business is through marketing.
Yeah.
Like direct mail is harder to scale than, say, digital marketing. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. And what I took from these marketing books is that your message is hugely important. There's a power of words in there. So the way you describe an opportunity to an investor, the way you approach letting somebody know that you're hoping to buy, you got to find a way to stand out, grab their attention early on. I know that there are a lot of us that don't like those clickbaity titles, but they work. I had to get over that hump thinking like, oh, this sounds just so sleazy, if you will, kind of thing. But there is science behind it, and that ultimately is you just want to draw somebody's attention. And if you're trying to raise capital, right, being able to just get somebody's attention to say, hey, I have something to share if you're interested. And that type of thing was cool for me to realize. And finding your voice as a marketer is similar to finding your investor identity. It does take time. It takes you trying things, learning new things. So I like that parallel that I drew from the marketing as well as my investing journey.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Marketing is so important, and I didn't realize just how important that was until I started to get into this as a business and treat it as a business. And once you do, you start to realize that marketing is just crucial.
Another book that I read was Real Estate Without Renters by Kevin Shortell. And that was, he was a guest on our show. I can't remember the exact episode, but we'll put that in the show notes. And that was interesting because that really opened my eyes to other ways that you can be a note investor through things like seller financing or getting creative with real estate. When I first learned about note investing, the path that I learned was you get in touch with asset managers, people who have loans that they just want to get rid of, whether it's a big bank, a local credit union, other investors. You're looking at spreadsheets and say, hey, I want to make an offer on these ones. That seems to be kind of the trend that a lot of people follow. But this book kind of opened my eyes to saying, oh, that there are other ways out there that you can buy notes. And there are people who are seller finance notes that you can get to them directly using public resources like the county website to figure out which addresses or which homes are seller financed. Then you can write letters to them. Or if you wanted to scale it, you could do digital marketing for them. So it's really interesting to see how you read one thing and it feels like a silo, like a book feels like a silo at a certain point. And then you read something else, and then you take something from that book and it starts to meld together, and you're thinking, oh, I learned this. This can be applied to this, and then put them together. It's really interesting how that works for me.
Okay, so that's a great segue into a few books I read. I had the same experience with these books about wealth mindset coming from these hyper successful wealthy people like T. Harv Eker and Jim Rohn and guys like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I reread Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. I'm going to reread that at least once a year for indefinitely because it's just a foundational book. If you're listening and you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. They've got it at the library. Check it out. But that book and the things he describes in there, if you've never read that before, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is just like out there fluff. Just by thinking about things and visualizing them and saying them, it's not going to just make things come true. But then you start to experience it and you realize, oh my gosh, this is real. And then I read a book this year called The Go-Giver by Berg and Mann.
Yep.
Basically, the key to abundant wealth and success is selfless giving. And to be a good giver, you need to be a good receiver. To give, you will receive. Receive, and you can give more. It was really cool. I love the way they tied it in the end. Is like this whole symbiotic relationship between giving and receiving. And it's pretty awesome, pretty profound, but it's a lot of the same things that Harv Eker was talking about in his book. And then I read the 12 Pillars by Jim Rohn, and it has his 12 pillars of success. And there's a lot of the same themes repeated in all of those. So pretty cool.
Nice. I love, like I said, how things come together. And
That's
it's like,
awesome.
oh, now I'm starting to see the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Really neat. And then, so I read a really, really interesting book early in the year, The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin.
You got through the whole thing?
I got through the
Oh,
whole
wow.
thing. So in the middle, it starts getting hard to get through it because he's on a rant, but I forced myself to push through, and I'm glad I did because I've told a few people this. If you feel like giving up, just turn to the end. Like read the first 3 or 4 chapters, read the last 3 or 4 chapters. If you feel like you can't get through the middle, it's probably okay. But essentially, the Federal Reserve is completely rigged. The uber powerful and wealthy run the world economy. The economic leaders are more powerful than anyone in the world, including the leaders of countries, and they control the world. It's mind blowing. It totally sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I believe it.
Right. That's what I thought too. It blew my mind to know that the Federal Reserve isn't a federal entity like the FBI or something. It was like, wait, what?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of rich guys that got together on a retreat and said, how can we basically make sure that the money stays in our hands?
Yeah. And we're talking the ultra rich elite, the top guys. So they pretty much do control things behind the scenes. And since reading it, I've seen evidence of it, and things before that didn't stand out to me now do. And I realize that there's truth in what he wrote.
Yeah, I got to get through that. I was at that point, like you said, it's like, okay, it's getting really dry. I think it's a dense book to read.
It is,
but it is really interesting when you think about challenging your perception of what you thought the Federal Reserve was.
Yeah. So another book I read that wasn't about investing per se, but really gave me insight and is making me more successful is Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. So this book was really cool. It talked about the brain science behind emotional intelligence, what emotional intelligence really is, and the skills of it. So he describes all that, lays it all out, what it can do for you, and how being smart isn't really just about IQ like people thought in the past. It's a lot about how you can control your emotions. And this is probably my biggest takeaway from the book. Intelligence can be grown like a muscle. It's not fixed.
I like
And
that.
that's huge.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, gives people like me hope. I'm not always going to be dumb. So yeah, it was an awesome book. I really really enjoyed it. And again, parts of it could be dry because he does talk about modern psychology and brain science. But if you're the type of person that finds that interesting, it's fascinating. If you're not, you can kind of speed through some of those parts and get to the pieces where he explains just how powerful emotional intelligence is.
Sure. So what are some books that you're looking forward to reading next year?
Ooh,
Or the
man.
2020 rather.
Yeah, good one. So I am planning to get through Fake in 2020. I want to get through that one. Anti-Fragile. I'm going to try that.
Right. I
Right.
heard that book was really good too.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out. Killing Sacred Cows is probably going to be my next book.
Oh, interesting. What's that book about?
That book is about how our traditional education system and not necessarily our education system, what you learn in school, because they don't really teach you about money, but our like financial system that people are conditioned to just take as truth. Go to work, get a job, invest in a 401k. That is
The
all.
American Dream.
Yeah, right. Exactly. He talks about how that is all this this system that has been set up for the ultra wealthy to profit from the financially naive, and what you can do about, like, how you can educate yourself to break out of that. Exactly what you and I are doing. I mean, we call it escaping the rat race. He calls it killing sacred cows.
So if there was to our listeners out there, if there's a book that you'd recommend from a multifamily space to help them if they wanted to learn more, or they can get an in-depth look at how to invest, what book would you recommend?
Ooh, that's a really good question. For multifamily, Rod Cleef's book is a good one for just a lot of information about what to expect when embarking on your journey, including some good details about like deal analysis, due diligence, uh, building your team and things like that. So that's a really good one there. And then there was one by David Lindahl and Donald Trump. It's a bit dated now, but the concepts in that one were really good. I'll have to grab the title there and throw that in the show notes for us, because I can't remember the exact title of that book right now. That's a good one. And I've been told that Joe Fairless's book on multifamily is a really good one, but I haven't read it yet. So that's on my list for 2020 as well.
Nice.
Yeah. How about yourself? What are you looking forward to reading in 2020?
So I want to get through The Creature of Jekyll Island. I think that would be an interesting book. I'm really looking forward to, I guess, holistically how the financial systems work from that perspective. That's what I want to grow my brain in that capacity. I want to also look more into just the psychology of focusing. That's something I struggle with. So I want to know what can I learn about how to focus and how that can help me be better. Because one of the key things about successful people in whatever area of life is the most consistent thing is that they have this weird, innate, abnormal ability to focus, removing all of the distractions and being able to hone in on this particular task or this particular skill set that they're trying to improve, or that goal. They have that ability to do so. And I think that for me, reading books and trying to apply nuggets that I get from books to help me focus better is what I'm looking forward to 2020.
Nice. Awesome. So yeah, we'd love to hear from our listeners about books that you found very valuable or profound in 2019, and also things you're looking forward to reading in 2020. Feel free to interact with us. Throw that up on our LinkedIn page by responding to this post, and we'll share that out. That's it for this episode of Tech Guys Who Invest. This is Adam.
And this is Kevin. Thank you so much for listening to us. Don't forget to join our Facebook page where we're building a community of investors so that we can share ideas, tips, and other ways to help us get out of the rat race. If you found value in this podcast, it would mean the world to us if you could share it with your network. Lastly, we love feedback. It's how we get better. So if you wouldn't mind spending 30 seconds and leaving us an honest review on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever platform you're using, that would be super sweet. If you want to get on Adam or Kevin's calendar, go to tgwipodcast.com/contact. We want to help you invest safely, wisely, and ultimately get you out of the rat race. Thanks again.